Welcome to Illegal Shift on One More, and I'm out of here. It's great to be talking to all of you on this Friday. We don't normally have the show on Friday, but things are kind of changing up a little bit. We're doing things differently so that I can live a life where I don't have to be sad every day. I'm John, I'm the host of the show, or the co-host of the show. Joining me as always is Fire Chief from way over there in Diet Haiti, or as I call it, Ohio, Jason Kiefer. How have you been?
Former fire chief, but yeah,
former fire chief. You're still chief to me. I still call you Chief Keef.
I know. I'm just setting the record straight, so that way I don't get fucking stolen valor from anybody.
Well, but you're still the chief of all the sergeants and below. Or you're just not the chief of everybody.
I love your justification. It works out.
I am not a dirty spokesperson. But welcome, guys, to Illegal Shift, the only sports show that won't talk down to you. We guarantee you that we cannot talk down to you. We're also the only sports show that doesn't waste your time, because if you're here, you're the kind of person who doesn't have time to be wasted. Keith, anything happened to you the past week? Anything interesting that you would like to thrill our audience with? Make up a lie or something.
Oh, I got sick as fuck Monday. Sick as hell. I got back from Michigan on Sunday afternoon. After a long week.
Because you went to Michigan? It was like so bad for your soul. As soon as you cross the state line, like
actually
one of your organs shuts down.
Luckily, I got to hang out with a bunch of buddies, but it does hurt my soul to cross that line. But
it's like a sci-fi show where someone goes to another dimension that's incompatible with their life.
You summed up Michigan for everybody.
Summed up Michigan for everyone. So what were you doing there? Whatever brought you to Michigan brought you there to die. So I'm glad that you got out.
So we always have a party for my police and fire motorcycle club every February up there. And so people from all over showed up. But we had a long, hard weekend and got home. I felt fine. Went to work Monday morning. Woke up a little nauseous. I was like, I'll get through it. About 10 o'clock, I looked at my cap. I'm like, dude, I got to go. Like, I'm not going to be worth a shit. I literally felt like I had kettlebells in my hands. Like, I was just so tired and just my body was worn down. So I literally came home, texted Jill. I said, get your boyfriend out of the house. I'm on my way home. And I got into bed around 10:30 and I was in bed all freaking day and night, but woke up Tuesday feeling better. But it was weird. I've never felt that way before with, not physically getting sick or anything, but you just run down, just weak.
Yeah, it's time for you to kind of get over that hump and start eating Centrum Silver like I told you to do 2 years ago.
The whole bottle of vitamin C's gone.
Yeah, just do what I do and just down a whole bottle of Flintstones every single day. But I love how your thrilling story is the story of you going to Michigan and feeling sick and tired.
Felt like I was going to die.
No stories of kicking down a door or rescuing a baby or jumping through a window right before an explosion or anything?
No. We made some runs yesterday. I was, again, up most of the night, but such is life. We move on and keep going. 3.5 more years.
Shocking changes for me. Obviously, last night on my show on Thursday, I gifted out a membership. And the way that works is that YouTube randomly selects someone they usually go by somebody who's been a faithful watcher, someone who's kind of like right on the cusp of membership to kind of entice them to like, hey, double down on your commitment to watching the show. And so it went to Bone Cold, who has changed his handle to Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles or whatever. And so I do this for gift, and then YouTube randomly selects like, oh, the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles were gifted a free membership by John. Damn it. I was so angry. And you're all like, well, you're all changed now. And everyone's like, oh, you secretly love the Eagles. That's why I'm all decked out in my America's team shirt and my hat, just to kind of like make sure that people aren't confused about where my loyalties lie. If I had a shirt that said I hate the Eagles, I would actually wear that first. But the other thing that's really weird is that I received a text message yesterday from the fire chief in the small town where I live. I live in a town of 800 people. Inviting me for a sit-down conversation about becoming a fireman. Fireman fighter, legit, with the funny hat and everything. So nothing's official. I'm not going to overcommit myself. It's possible that, we'll talk and I'll ask him. This job doesn't involve helping others, does it? Because then I'm out.
Is that a volunteer department?
Oh, yeah, it's volunteer, yeah. And
so you'll probably be able to keep your beard.
Yeah, well, that would be a condition too, and obviously, I don't want to. I would rather die literally than get rid of the beard, which would prevent me from having a good seal on my mask. But there's different methods around here, and I'm sure all over the country. But if I'm just someone that could drive an ambulance, that would actually be really helpful to my community because sometimes in the morning we don't have an EVOC driver. So even if I only did that, maybe that would be helpful.
Yeah, that is exciting.
Maybe it won't work out.
Maybe it won't.
Yeah, maybe I'll decide. You know what? I don't. Maybe you'll see all of my stuff on the internet about how much I hate firefighters, and this whole thing's actually an intervention. It's not really a job interview.
Yeah, he's gonna sit you down and be like, John, please accept this gift. Let me read this.
This is
letter.
a small town, and most of us are firefighters. And I don't know if you know this, but you live in a firefighter's town, and if you ever, if you a lot of fire safety is fire prevention, and he kind of looks at me, and it kind of implies that if I don't shut up about the fire department, my house might just burn down. So
the gas cans in the back of your car need to go.
Veiled threats. The gas cans in the back of my car. They're in the bed of my truck. No big deal. They just fly out and explode the car behind
I'm not inhaling those fumes. Are you stupid?
Anyway,
that's folks, exciting. Keep me posted.
Yeah, we'll see. The show's brought to you by GhostBed. Folks, you all know this. Go to GhostBed. Please go to GhostBed. I don't want you to listen to my John's funny GhostBed ad. I'm like, oh, what is he going to say today? I really do want you to go to GhostBed. Okay, so you can't afford the bed. You can't afford the adjustable frame or the mattress with its cooling technology built in. You look at the budget, it's just not there because eggs are so expensive, milk's so expensive. Well, can you do a pillow? Can you do something smaller on the website? Take a look at the website. Go to the website. Look at what they have to offer. These products are made in America. They're backed by a warranty, a customer support team that will work with you. Not perfect. I didn't say that they're the perfect company, but they're a good company. And they're going to work with you, and they're going to give you technology and products that you need to get a better sleep. So much in your life revolves around how you're feeling and how you're doing. And I can tell you that any night where I miss sleep, which I call Thursday, I am crankier. I am more hostile. My professionalism suffers and my life suffers because I'm more tired. If you're someone that's struggling to get enough hours to sleep, at least make those hours, at least make that quality time. If you can't get quantity time, go to GhostBed, use the offer code WOLFPACK. You can save 40%. So that is good for you. And it's good for me and Keith because it tells GhostBed that you're listening to our show and they should continue to invest in us.
It's actually an oxymoron because it brought me back to life because we have the sheets and the pillows, and it brought me back to life Tuesday.
Yeah, normally sheets and pillows very associated with what Keith has to find people, when they go out to an unconscious person call. But anyway, go to ghostbed.com. Please use the offer code WOLFPACK. Please tell them that you're supporting us because as much as I've joked about it before, I appreciate GhostBed for sponsoring the show, for sponsoring us, for keeping us going. And if GhostBed decides that the revenue's not there, that the support's not there, that people aren't going to GhostBed, what literally will happen if no one who's listening to this, if no one goes, they turn off the lights here. We're done.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe some of you are like, well, that's a good thing for the internet. I'll let your dollar do the voting. So we appreciate that. Thank you to GhostBed. Use the offer code WOLFPACK. You'll be surprised by what a good deal you can get. Show's also brought to you by Blackwater. When diplomacy fails and force is the only answer, Blackwater is there. If you need a private army to secure your interests, a specialized team for deniable operations, tactical training for forces that answer to no one, we provide security, intelligence, and combat situations with no red tape, no oversight, and no limits. Whether it's protecting corporate assets in hostile territories, escorting VIPs through war zones, or conducting enhanced interrogations far from prying eyes, we operate where others won't and where the rules don't apply. Blackwater, because in the end, power isn't given, it's taken. Thank you, Blackwater.
Thank you.
Any smart things to say about Blackwater?
No, I'm scared.
No, you're slightly scared. Well, speaking of changing the rules, I was thinking of Blackwater and how they do things a little bit different. The NFL thinking about changing some stuff up. It's always an interesting time of year, kind of around when the competition committees meet and the combine's going on. We talk about what's going wrong in the NFL, but not exactly, because we're not going to consider any real substantive changes with the referees. We're only going to discuss stuff that clearly doesn't matter so much. But there's interesting stuff going on. We knew technology was going to be more integrated into the game at some point, but the NFL is considering changes to the regular season overtime rules. This comes from ESPN. We're going to offer our commentary from Indianapolis. The NFL is considering changes in its overtime rules in the regular season to decrease the advantage for teams that win the coin toss. Are we saying that the coin toss, a 50-50 thing, is not fair enough? I grant you that it gives you an advantage, but at least that's an equal advantage that could go to either team. The whole point of overtime is you want to decide the game, but you don't want it to go on forever. So one team needs to kind of get an advantage. Okay, if we've changed overtime, it seems to me, and this is just because I'm getting older and crappier, but it seems like we change it like every 2 or 3 years. Would I tell you that they're considering changing overtime? What's your first reaction to that?
Here we go again. As soon as I get the overtime rules and understand them, then there's another
time to change them. Yeah. And it seems like it's always purely reactionary, right? Like we're mad that Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a second chance to possess the ball, that someone went out and kicked a field goal and won the game. And we should have been able to sell more ads with Patrick Mahomes on the TV. That's cynical, but that is cruelly what it's about. And so they're saying it's time to rethink the overtime rule. League executive Troy Vincent, clearly a deep state representative, said at the Wednesday NFL scouting combine. Vincent said the competition committee agrees overtime rules need to be addressed once again. Isn't this kind of like a tacit admission that like they're not doing a good job? Like if we addressed overtime 2 or 3 years ago, or even 5 years ago, and it needs to be addressed again, it kind of implies that they're not getting it right. They should say, we haven't done a good job, so we're going to have another crack at it. Fingers crossed this
year in a row.
Vincent said the competition committee the overtime rules need to be addressed. Receiving the ball first has become more of an advantage than prior to 2011, when overtime was a sudden death period. Receiving teams won 56.8% of games in overtime, which was up from 55.4% until then from 2001. So they're receiving a marginal percentage increase, which, that's such a small margin of increase. I would ask, is that statistically significant? I'm not sure. Current rules give both teams an opportunity to possess the ball in overtime unless a touchdown is scored on the first possession or a safety. This article fails to mention.
I actually, when I was reading your article, I was like, oh, left that out.
If you are ESPN, you should mention that. Because it's not just a touchdown. If you score a safety, you also win the game immediately. Yep. The rules are different in the playoffs. Both teams get a chance to have the possession, even if the offense scores a touchdown in the opening drive. I think that's terrible. I don't like that. If you could have a possession and the other team, it's not just that you went down and scored a touchdown. That's an accomplishment, first of all. It's very difficult to do. How many games do you watch where you watch the Cowboys go down the field and they can't get it into the end zone? They just start kicking at the 20 and they just take field goals. We've seen games where it's like, the game ends just like 12-3 because it's just nothing but field goals. It hasn't been that way lately, but it has been that way in the past in the NFL. But I say this, it's not just going down the field and scoring a touchdown. You have to have a defense that can stop them. Your team is on the field the whole time. If we were playing a game where both teams had to have a possession because only one team was on the field at a time, that would be fair. But your team is on defense, and your defense needs to be better than the other team's offense. I'm sorry I'm explaining the basics of football, but it should be that way. That okay, so you should feel like, as the head coach or as any principal stakeholder in your team, that the coin toss doesn't matter, that you can, whichever unit of your team is going out there, that your defense can win this game. Defenses can win games, whether it's through turnovers or just forcing a punt or whatever, or
championships,
a turnover on downs. You need to feel like your defense can do that. Now, caveat to that, it's not any one team's fault or any of the team's fault that defense has been neutered in the NFL. We know that defenses have been neutered. You're not allowed to look cross-eyed at Patrick Mahomes without it being a 15-yard penalty. You can't do this. You can't do that. This is, a lot of times offenses will specifically set up plays and situations in order to get pass interference so that the guy doesn't have to catch the ball. He just has to be fucked with enough so that the ball gets spotted there anyway.
Just to draw the flag, exactly.
Just to draw the flag. That's a lot of times is the situation. And a lot of that is fun, kind of part of the strategy, particularly if you're new to football and you don't really understand it. It's fun to kind of learn that there's stuff going on that isn't that obvious. But your defense needs to be able to stop the game. And if we feel like offenses are going out there and winning on the first possession of an overtime, what we're actually learning is that the overtime rules don't need to be changed. The game's rules need to be changed so that defense and offense are more evenly matched. If you're seeing like 56% time, it just goes to the offense winning the game on the first possession without the defense having a stop. That's what shows you that the offense has an advantage. It has nothing to do with the coin toss. It has to do with the offense having an advantage. But they're not going to take that away from it. You know why?
And also, John, it's not that every one of those defenses were shit.
Yeah.
So you do have some games where a defensive back blows a coverage and the wide receiver's wide open. Okay, I'll give you that. That's a blown play. You're going to have that. But for those percentages, not every one of those defenses, if you go and look at every overtime game this past season, some of those defenses were really, really good, but they got screwed because of the calls.
Making the overtime rules the same in the regular season is a possible solution, along with extending the period to 15 minutes. Am I the only one that remembers that it used to be 15 minutes and we used to have all these complaints that games were too long? That's why they changed overtime to 10 minutes, because it used to be another quarter. You would play another 15 minutes, right? Like if we're going to extend it by any amount of time, extending it by a quarter makes sense.
Yep.
And in fact, it used to be the case in a sudden death game that, they extended it by another quarter, but at that point, it essentially took the clock out of it. I mean, you still had the play clock mattered, but the game clock didn't, because in 15 minutes, some team's going to score, unless it's like, 1925, in which case, you're very likely to just end the game 0-0 tied and the game doesn't count. And that's the championship. That could have happened in 1925. But we know now that with modern NFL play that 15 minutes or 10 minutes even should be enough time for a sudden death situation. So the quarter didn't used to matter, but then it did matter because both teams are going to have a possession. And then they're like, well, the games are too long, which people are complaining about. I never understood the complaint of that, other than like you're having scheduling problems with the broadcasters. Maybe the broadcasters are complaining it's too long.
Well, it came into money, but it's a two-sided coin, because you've got more time to advertise.
Yes, that's what I don't understand, is why were broadcasters complaining the games were too long? If the NFL is something like 20, it's a huge market share. I don't remember, have the numbers right in front of me. We talked about it last summer, but it's like the most watched programs, like the top 90 most watched programs in the entire country were all NFL products. Then why is it more better? If you have a whole 10 to 15 minutes of overtime, that's the best. That you can charge your advertisers more for overtime. Like, hey, if this game gets into overtime, we're charging you double, and they'll say yes or no to that, right? And if they say no, then it's like you could approach other companies that are willing to pay that. You can make that money. So why were they ever complaining the games were too long? I don't know.
In the fan, I mean, and if you're a true fan, you don't care.
No,
you want to watch the sport. And David J brought up in the chats, baseball is too long. I know you're not a huge baseball fan, but I am.
I love baseball.
I don't mind being down at the ballpark or watching it on TV. The only time we hate it is when our team's fucking losing and we're like, oh God, just end it. But that's just part of the sport.
I don't have a team, so I never feel that way. Go Reds, I guess. Among other changes, the NFL plans to use its virtual measuring system to determine first downs in 2025. This wouldn't eliminate the officials who manually spot the ball. So don't worry, they're still going to be able to manipulate the game between the Bills and the Chiefs to undermine Josh Allen. And they're going to use chains to mark the lines to gain. The optimal tracking system notifies officiating instantly if a first down was gained after the ball was spotted by hand. So a light will turn on or something once they put the ball down on the field. We used this in the background last season, said Kimberly Fields, the NFL's senior vice president of football operations and also a girl. The goal of 2025 is to continue to train our techs, who are the ones who will be utilizing the technology, finalizing all of our officiating processes and procedures around virtual measurements and testing the graphics for the broadcast and in stadium. So fans in the stadium and fans watching on TV can see what we're doing. The chain crew will still be there as a backup. Instant reaction from Keith. Good or bad? Go.
Bad.
You think it's bad?
I think it's bad.
I think the referee crew should be converted to Terminators as soon as possible. It should all be technology. Look at what happens when you have this human judgment. Humans can be bribed and challenged, but I suppose computer programs can be manipulated, can't they?
They can be manipulated.
Someone could just hack into the Matrix, and all of a sudden the Bills could move the ball 11 yards, and it's not a first down.
I need to know more about it. I mean, I saw through a couple games this season, like they were showing, that Hawkeye, is what they're calling it. They showed how it works and whatever, and it may be perfectly fine, but I'm also kind of a fundamentalist. And again, it's like in baseball where they were going to have a computer calling balls and strikes. No, I want that human element in there to a point. Now, when it's so egregious, when you have, these certain referee crews that are missing calls left and right, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, the fact that there needs to be a Q&A, procedure, and they say there is one, but nothing ever happens, when they fuck up a ton. But I mean, having that in the back, I'd rather have that in the background. So like if a call is completely botched, they can go to that and look at it, and then you weigh that option. But again, it's so new, it's such a new concept that, 2 years from now, I may be like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. But I'm leery. I'm leery about relying on technology completely.
I think most conservative white men our age are afraid of technology. that makes sense. To be honest, though,
you just said Terminator. It started.
Well, you make a good point, though, right? It's the same argument as John Henry versus the steam shovel. What's better, man or machine? And eventually, John Henry wins, but he dies. That's the end of the story. So, machines are here eventually to replace us, and we're complaining right now because human beings are making mistakes. They're calling games critical plays in favor of the Bills, or we're talking about how they're unprofessional or they're corrupt, and so we seem to be complaining, and this seems to be a solution being proffered. Well, we could have a dispassionate machine using lasers or microchips or GPS determine the placement of the ball, whether or not the ball was advanced far enough to the line of the game. And we could say, well, that adds a certain amount of precision and fairness and truthfulness about what's happening on the field. And then the other part of me says, well, football or baseball, this is a human endeavor, and it really, we should keep machines out of it as much as possible, because this is about, feats and tests of courage, of mind, and of body, and it's a subjective experience to a certain amount. And how do we compare games of the past to games of the future? How do records hold up? How do things stack? How are we going to consider running backs of the future and their greatness compared to running backs of the past? Is everything going to have an asterisk? Well, Curtis Martin was a great running back. Yeah, but that was back in the era when referees were deciding whether or not he made a first down. So who knows how great Curtis Martin was when we're talking about, running back X of the modern team that, has we could tell how many inches the guys run. I don't know. It begs a question, because in some ways we're complainers and we're being offered solutions, and we're complaining about the solution.
The problem is there's just not a lot of information out about it to the general public. The NFL people have it, and obviously they're people a lot smarter than me have looked at this, and they beta tested it over last year. Now it brings in that they could speed the game up if that's what people want, whether it's the execs or fans or whatever. If you have a computer doing all that, it's going to be instant. Versus, you've got a referee going, when they get into that little huddle, like, well, where do you got it? Where do you have them placed at? So, I mean, it could speed the game up. I mean, it's going to happen regardless, whether Kiefer likes it or not. But I just want to know more about it. That's all.
I propose a solution, at least a temporary one, when we investigate this Hawkeye. Go on and do it the way that we're doing it right now, which we admit is a flawed system. Mm-hmm. And then let's, at the same time, they've kind of implied that they're already doing this, that they're having the system run in the background. And then what I want to do is take a look at an entire season And I want to say, here's what the results would be if this game was completely officiated by the system, by the program, by Hawkeye, by the T2000 or whatever. And this is the results of these changes. We wouldn't be able to say, well, the game would have been won or lost because, of course, in different situations, teams would make different situations. But we would say, hey, because of this, the Bills had fewer possessions, or on this occasion, this and this and this happened. Like, what is the variance, or what is the exceptions? Like, are the refs and Hawkeye agreeing most of the time, or is our rate of differentiation like something like 10%? Like, is it really high? The difference is that how bad the refs are, or
right?
And then
this percentage with the humans, this percentage,
right? And then we
all together, and these were different.
Right. So take a look at that. See if that percentage of difference is statistically significant. There's going to be some difference, first of all. So you can't be thrown off by saying that, well, there's some kind of difference. And then, so that there is data to look at. That's all that tells you, is that there's some sort of substantive difference between what happened between the computer program and what actually happened with the refs.
And they probably already have that.
So then from there, you actually need to break down the data, though. Like, what happened in each of these instances, to say, what are the referees doing wrong according to the system, and then actually looking on the field, watching what we can watch and getting what we can, or even talking to the officials, or using all of our different camera angles to decide, well, the human refs, the field crew, were actually better or different than Hawkeye. And then that's the only way you can substantively decide which one's better or worse, is you have to do a deep dive on the analytics and compare how one machine works versus the other.
Well, I think if they would have done that at the end of this last season, because like I said, it was running in the background. Had they done that and then put that out with this announcement that this is what we're going to go with in 25, show the data sets, this scenario, that scenario, and just show. You don't have to show all of it, because that's a ton of information. But you grab the greatest hits, 5 different subsets of data. And here's why we think it's a good idea. But instead, it's just, oh, we ran it and we like it and we're going to do it. It's hard to get buy-in, at least nowadays, without having some factual stuff behind
it. The competition committee will also review expansion of the replay assist to include more fouls. But Vincent said there was no appetite from the committee to use video replay to throw a flag. The team could still propose a rule change to do that. For now, officials miss an obvious penalty, such a face mask replay can't assist in throwing a flag. That kind of happened to Patrick Mahomes during the Super Bowl. Someone kind of face masked him and nothing was thrown.
Right.
No flags were thrown on a replay. Replay assist was used in 2024 to pick up flags thrown for roughing the passer, contact with the head and neck, unnecessary roughness, runner out of bounds, intentional grounding, and ineligible player downfield. Expansion under consideration for 2025 would include roughing the passer hit below the knee, unnecessary roughness, defenseless receiver or player, face mask, contact of hand with face mask. I don't like that. That's not a face mask penalty if you just touch the face mask. Right. That's going to happen.
It's when your fingers go in.
Tripping, illegal crackback block. That sounds awesome. I want to see more crackback blocks and horse collar tackles. We need to bring back the horse collar tackle. I know a lot of people are against that, but I'm the only one who loves horse collars.
What did you say it was called? A crackback block?
Crackback block, yeah. Next time I see you, I'm going to do one to you. Anyway, Vincent said the league wanted to find a way to bring back onside kicks. Yes, God's sakes, it's so ridiculous that you cannot surprise anyone with an onside kick. Do you remember when the Saints and the Colts played in the Super Bowl and the Saints opened up the second half with an onside kick?
I do.
They wouldn't be able to do that under current NFL rules. The Saints would be setting up an onside kick, and the Colts would be able to see that they were doing that based off of their formation. We have got to find a way to bring that back. Now that we realize what we've lost, we've changed it to try to bring back kick returns, which I don't think have happened in any greater number than last year. What we've sacrificed is the onside kick, which is something that was already like something down to like 3% success rate as it was. We need to make special teams essentially what it was in the 90s. I'm sorry, but I've been a kind of proponent of these things, particularly as the XFL has tried them out. But now I just see that they don't necessarily work for the NFL, or the NFL has found a way to ruin them. And I want special teams to just go back to what they were in 1995. That's where I've landed on that.
A crackback block is an illegal blocking technique in American football where a player blindsides a defensive player from behind or below the waist. Yes. Wouldn't that be a block in the back?
That's what I thought. Yeah, block in the back. That also happens usually on some kind of return play.
I mean, it is a much cooler name.
I want to call it. That's my new nickname, crackback.
That's still going to put you in my photos. That.
Thank you. I have you as fireman fire. Vincent said the league wanted to find a way to bring back onside kicks while also installing a permanent kickoff rule after a 1-year trial with what was called the dynamic kickoff. The trial made kickoffs more exciting with a higher rate of returns, Vincent said. He anticipated the spot on the touchback on kickoffs being moved from the 30 to the 35-yard line. We're just changing things every single year.
You can't keep up with it.
Yeah. And, I mentioned earlier, like throwing an asterisk on historical play, but now it's like if the rules change significantly every single year from year to year, it almost feels like a different league playing every year because just the way that it works and the decisions that you make on special teams, particularly if they're moving the spot for a touchback from the 30 to the 35-yard line. It's like this completely changes all analytics and all percentages and, what you're going to do and
strategy.
The value for gunners and kick returners, and it changes a lot. And I just wish you'd stop messing with it. The universal consensus that we know we need to do something with this play, Vincent said. He added there wasn't much conversation around a 4th and long option to keep possession, though those discussions could occur next month. The Tush push play, mastered by the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, has been a hot topic this week as the Packers proposed banning it. Some opponents have argued that the play is dangerous, but Vincent said the league found no injuries on the play. It used to be just called the quarterback sneak or whatever. I don't think we should ban it. I think, just as I implied earlier, that you have the offense winning in overtime and the defense needing to step up and stop that play. We don't need to ban the tush push because it's effective. We need to build a defense that can stop it. You see that play out there. You're watching tape. You're seeing Philadelphia do this.
They're going.
You're seeing them do it with a different center. It's not the same guy anymore. Kelsey got tush pushed to death to the point where he retired. And now there's a different guy who's the starting center for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's the one who's essentially leading that play. And so it's something that they're going to stick with. They're probably never going to abandon. Other teams need to adopt finding a way to get the tush push done. One team that would not be able to do it, Dallas Cowboys. I could just tell you that they would do it and it would result in a fumble. So Dallas needs to figure out how to do it, and Dallas also needs to figure out how to stop it. But also in with talking about the UFL, the old USFL, XFL, and rule changes, I wanted to talk about some of the changes that they're making. They're going to a new kickoff formation. The UFL's kickoff rules this season will be based on a combination of the kickoff used by the XFL legacy during its 2023 season and the NFL dynamic kickoff used by the NFL last season. These changes include the kickoffs will now start at the 30-yard line, and they were at the 20-yard line last year. The 10 remaining players on the kickoff team will line up at the receiving team's 40-yard line. All kicking team players were at the 20-yard line, including the kicker last season. The receiver team setup zone will stretch from the 35-yard line to the 30-yard line, and they must have at least 9 players in that zone. Last season, the receiving team had to have a minimum of 8 players, but no more than 9 in their setup zone, which the kicking team's 30 to 40-yard line. A lot of that's very technical. The landing zone will be from the receiving team's 20-yard line to the goal line. It looks like they're still keeping essentially the dynamic kickoff. They're just moving it a little bit.
Yeah, they're just tweaking.
There will be 2 touchback spots, the 35-yard line for balls kicked into the end zone and a 20-yard line for balls that hit the landing zone. I like that they're doing it, and they're at least finding a way to make kicking interesting and having the result of where the ball lands affect the outcome of the play. Head coach's challenges will be expanded. Head coach will be able to earn a second challenge if the first one is successful. The head coach can challenge any officiating decision. Any officiating decision. This is what the XFL does really well. They can throw a red challenge flag for anything. As long as they have a timeout remaining, they can throw a flag on anything. That's what needs to happen in the NFL, is that once the refs make a decision, that a flag can go. Now, you have to be able to penalize them. Like if they lose the challenge, then they lose a timeout or whatever, loss of challenge. They can't make any more challenges, whatever. But one thing you see in the NFL is that they'll spot a ball, or they'll do this or do that and the other thing, and it's not a situation where a coach can challenge it. And we need to have coaches be able to challenge any officiating rule. And I would say that if a coach challenges it, an officiating rule, then I don't think that it should be up to that crew necessarily to do that. I think there should be a field judge in the sky who hasn't issued a decision at all regarding the play.
Yeah.
And that's the guy who should ultimately decide whether the coaches or the refs won that the decision on that play. Someone who's not part of any crew, who's not vested, just kind of an overseer, like just have Dan Blandino do it.
It'd be like them sending it to New York, though. You know, like in the NFL, it's like send it to New York.
There you go. Onside kicks. The league has eliminated this option. Too bad. Kickoff team will be able to retain possession on the ball with a 4th and 12 scrimmage play from its own 28-yard line. I do like that. Noteworthy rules returning. Teams will have scrimmage play options, run or pass, to elect to go for 1, 2, or 3 points after a touchdown. I like that. 3-point conversion. You have to do that from the 10-yard line. A 2-point conversion is from the 5-yard line, and a 1-point conversion is from the 2-yard line. I'd rather just see that being an extra point kicked, but whatever. Overtime will consist of alternating attempts to score from the opponent's 5-yard line with no kicks allowed. Do you like that? Because I really do. It's a lot more like college.
Mm-hmm.
It will remain a best-of-3 format until a winner has been determined. A double forward pass on one play from behind the line of scrimmage is still legal. In these situations, the ball cannot cross the line of scrimmage at any point prior to the second forward pass. This is really
that's weird to me, but I mean,
well,
just because it's foreign.
But it's not really to encourage gadget plays. It's I had this explained to me once pretty well, that it wasn't about like having someone drop way back and then pass forward and then have that person pass forward again. It's really not designed to set up that situation. It's really just to help them avoid any kind of illegal forward pass for a lateral that might be bad. They want to be able to see lateraling behind the ball, and if technically that lateral goes slightly forward, it's really not a problem. If you're a team, you can exploit this rule, yes, and you could really set up almost a double quarterback option. You could really exploit that, but I don't think that it ever worked out that way in the XFL in 2020 or in any subsequent iteration of the league. The league's going to kick off Friday, March 28th at 8 p.m. on Fox. Encourage you guys to watch that. Our teams are playing first. Me and Kiefer, my Houston Roughnecks, who did terribly last year.
Are you keeping them? That was
yeah. You can't switch teams, man. It's a code of honor thing. It doesn't matter how rough it is. You got to stick it out.
As I heard you say multiple times during the NFL season, I'm done with these guys.
I'm done. I'm switching it up. Yeah.
I'm going to become a Texans fan.
I couldn't do it. I tried. I tried to care about them, and I couldn't. It didn't work. This is something we've been talking about the past couple of shows, Justin Tucker's situation. Well, his wife has broken the silence on the disturbing allegations. We mentioned that so far the Ravens had been mum, Tucker had been mum. Well, now his wife has said something.
I like your graphic. Let's draw it out all summer to distract.
Well, unfortunately, that's the way that it works. That there's always a tail wagging a dog somewhere. Amanda Bass Tucker, the wife of Baltimore Ravens kicker Justin Tucker, broke her silence on the disturbing sexual allegations made against her husband and statements alongside him on Outkick on Wednesday. Justin, 35, maintained his innocence, calling the allegations shocking and heartbreaking, while claiming they're simply not true. Well, Amanda, who shares his son with the kicker, confirmed that she's continued to support him. I'm going to say, first of all, I'm really touched by that. I know that that's maybe something you should expect from a wife, but when two people get together, and Keith, you need to be listening to this.
I'm listening.
When you get together and you make a vow before each other and all of your friends and before God that you will love each other and support each other, and most above all, stay with each other in sickness and in health, rich or for poor, you've got to know that entering that day on your day of marriage, that it's difficult to have the right perspective because it's one of the best days of your life, or it should be. Statistically, this is not a joke, but I'm telling you, that means your shittiest days still lie ahead, because today is one of your best days. And what you've got to be doing is on your best day, when you're in front of all those people and God, making that vow and committing yourself and making that obligation, you've got to have that worst day in your head. What's going to happen when our reputations are ruined? What's going to happen when our house blows away, when our finances are destroyed? What's going to happen when we're sick? What's going to happen when we're suffering humiliation and indignity together? Are we going to stand by each other in those difficult moments? When it's the hardest, are you going to be there for each other? And of course, the answer is yes. And it seems to me like a lot of people who are in high profile situations, I'm not necessarily saying that the kicker for the Baltimore Ravens is, but any NFL player might be, that it's easier to just cut and run, to take that alimony, to take a big paycheck, and then free yourself from the troubling association with this guy who's being put through the ringer, he already has a scarlet letter attached to him, even though nothing's been proven, nothing's been paid out, no admission has been made. It's just people making up a bunch of shit about Justin Tucker and hoping that they can get something out of it because, frankly, there's no consequences or reprisals for them for being horrible people and going out there and trying to ruin the reputation and life of someone who kicks a ball for a living.
Yeah.
These false allegations made against Justin have caused so much hurt to our family. I believe my husband, and I love and support him fully, she said via Outkick. I love this because last week we were talking about how the silence was growing deafening. And in that article I read by Yahoo Sports made me sick. Basically, they were saying, well, you not saying something is starting to say something. I'm like, no. It means that they're above responding to these scurrilous allegations, which so far as I know, have no basis in reality. Anyone can say anything. I said the show was brought to you by Blackwater earlier today. Anyone believe that I received any money from Blackwater? Well, I said it. It must be true. So if I say that Justin Tucker's out there asking for sexual favors from women, it must be true, right? I'm just drawing a stark line of comparison.
Yeah.
Anyone can say anything. Anyone can say anything, and it's not the truth. But for some reason, if it's scandalous or scurrilous, we latch onto that and say, well, it must be true. And I saw this thing on social media that just pissed me off. I don't even know why I'm on social media, but it said, like, you know, now that it's up to 16 women, it sure is looking real. I'm like, no, just because it's more doesn't make it any more likely. And I made the case last week or the week before. I'm like, that actually makes it less likely. The idea that for something like 10, 15 years, this guy's gone around to every single massage parlor in Baltimore, which how many are there? And every single time he's seeing a different person who's massaging him, and every single time he's asking for a rub and tug from that person. The idea that he's behaving that way, that's not realistic. If someone was actually trying to solicit sexual favors from people for money, you know, basically soliciting prostitution, they'd be doing that discreetly on a few occasions, and maybe with someone who's a willing partner who would agree to that. And then they wouldn't have to do it all over town, because the idea that this is happening is also suggesting that every single massage parlor employee has always said no to that, which I hate to say this, but like, there's none of us who has perfect integrity, and there's none of us who are completely moral or completely just or completely upright. And you're going to tell me since like 2012, if he's literally going around finding anyone who will give him a rub down of that nature, and that he's never found one, they're all just completely moral, completely upright, morally outraged, completely justified employees of a massage parlor, and they've all said no, and yet he continues to do it. That's the only way you generate a situation like this. So I promise you that even if something has happened, we are dealing with a lot of liars here. A lot of horrible people who are trying to cash in on this situation.
I want the list of where he went.
Yeah, released. We can't get the Epstein list ever, but let's get the list of these shops. I want addresses, like where are all these places at, because there's a high number of massage parlors in Baltimore. I bet if I Googled, I wouldn't find that many. I don't know. I live in a small town that doesn't even have one, so I don't know.
And I'm sure some of this was, I'm sure somebody, you know, went to his house or whatever. I'm sure he didn't go out to, you know, the rub and tug that have the curtains in the front windows all the time. Maybe he did frequent that, you know, occasionally. I'm sure he had some work done at home, but I am curious, you know, with 16, who are they and why hasn't litigation started?
He should be starting litigation on his own behalf, saying that these people are defaming my character. I'm up for a huge contract negotiation with the Baltimore Ravens, and this is casting a shadow over my contract negotiations. So they're actively interfering with my business Defamation isn't just about your feelings being hurt, right? When you sue someone over defamation of character, you have to be able to prove damages. It's not enough to just say they're hurting my feelings or they're embarrassing my wife. You have to say, how is this affecting your financial situation? Their claims, whether in print or spoken, being slander or libel, you have to be able to make a defamation case saying, this is for sure hurting me. And it could be the case that he's waiting to find out what his contract situation will be before he can legally go forward and sue these people. Because so far, with no changes having been made to his contract, that no one can say at this point, especially being the off season, he hasn't been benched or anything, that it's affected him at all financially. It's possible that it has, but that there's no proof of that yet, just because of the way the NFL game is played. That right now nothing's really happening with that, and so if he gets cut from the team, if his contract is, if he's able to show that he had to take a price reduction or something in order to stay, and that was over and beyond like whatever degradation in his skills that he has at this point in his career, then he'd be able to go after him. But here's the really sickening part, right? So I talk about how like there's a potential for him to be able to go after the people that are lying about him. So what? You can't get blood from a stone. These people that work at these wellness centers and these spas and these massage parlors, how much money do they make? We're talking about single moms. We're talking about people who are willing to lie to get a payday to begin with. They don't have any money. And Justin Tucker could go out and point at them and call them liars, and no one will ever care. No one's ever going to learn the names of these people. It's not going to change their personal life. They might be known like amongst their circle of friends as the person who accused Justin Tucker of something and it never went anywhere, but I doubt it'll affect them at all. And it just makes me angry that because Justin Tucker has something to lose, that he has something to lose. And those people who have nothing to lose and only everything to gain, they can't really ever be put on the same level. They can't be made to reckon with the choices and decisions that they're making. And I've seen it before in my personal life. I remember when I was in high school, my geography teacher my freshman year was accused of some kind of impropriety. And I got called into the principal's office and I was asked what if I'd ever seen anything. And I said, of course I haven't. And I go back after that meeting and I'm sitting in geography class, and the girl who made the accusation, someone says to her, like, that he didn't do anything to you. And she goes, yeah, but it's too late to stop it now.
Oh, fuck.
And I should have gone right back to the office right then and there and said, this is what I just heard. But I was 14. I didn't understand anything. I just wanted to stay out of the situation because I didn't understand it. But that's a perfect example. A student made up a lie about a geography teacher about him behaving inappropriately. He didn't return to the high school the next year. I don't know what happened to him. All I know is that his job got fucked with, his reputation got fucked with, and she made up the whole thing because she didn't like him as a teacher. And there was no way for him to get back at her.
Yeah, you're never getting back yourself.
No,
you're never going to take that possibility out of people's minds.
Yeah, because your reputation's damaged. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, and not to go on a tangent, but the same thing happened to a buddy of mine in high school. Got accused of something that he didn't do, and almost verbatim. Well, I already said it, so I'm not taking it back. Yeah. What the fuck is wrong with you people? What is wrong with you? You are a sick and demented human fucking being. But I want to know who these people are and what they're wanting to gain, because they're obviously not saying they're wanting to gain anything yet because there is no legal action.
Right. Yeah. For whatever reason, nothing's even been filed. Because if anything had been filed in Baltimore County or whatever county that is, I guarantee you that someone there at the Baltimore Banner, the Baltimore Sun, WBAL, or whatever those media outlets are there, they're looking for that. They probably have people who are inquiring with the clerk every day,
right,
to see if those things are there.
And I'd put a little credence into it if there was something filed, but this long after the fact,
they just want a payoff.
Patient zero should have filed it that day, when it came out. I mean, that should have already been in the works. And I mean, I'm not saying that it didn't happen, but I'm not saying that it did happen by any means. But you have to give me something to go off of before.
Well, we all need to be on Justin Tucker's side until we know otherwise. It's called innocent until proven guilty. And the reason why we had to codify that is because no one inherently believes that. Like I said, the allegation goes, and for some reason it sticks, and we believe the allegation. Well, that's just not fair. That's not the way our justice system works. But it ought not to be the way humanity works. We ought to believe someone is innocent until there's substantive evidence that they're guilty, and that's how we should all be operating. But for some reason, because it's salacious, because it's interesting, because it's good gossip, it's sticking to Justin Tucker. And if we were a better people, if we were a better society, these sorts of things wouldn't be able to happen. We wouldn't be seeing allegations being made with no paper to back it up. We'd see the paper at the same time.
So let's hypothetically say nothing comes out court-wise. He's not charged with anything. There's no doubt that he's a Hall of Fame kicker.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. What do you think that does to his chances just with reputation alone? Do you think that factors in?
Absolutely. Well, here's something that I don't know if you remember this, but he did Justin Tucker actually did a movie commercial where I'm trying to remember which movie it was for. It was for some sort of terrible superhero movie. I'd have to look it up, but Justin Tucker actually did an endorsement deal for a movie. With this scandal going on, and it looks bad for the NFL and it looks bad for the Ravens, it's going to be bad for him. He did an ad for Kraven the Hunter. Because Kraven the Hunter, he said, why don't we change the name of the film to Raven the Hunter? And then he was going to name that him because of some occasion where he threw a tackle or something. So he literally did a commercial for the movie Kraven the Hunter. So even if his negotiations and everything goes well with the NFL, do you think movie companies are going to be approaching Justin Tucker again and offering him contracts or any kind of lucrative endorsement deals? Because they don't want to be associated with sexual scandal. And even if it's not true, they're not going to risk it. They're going to say, well, this guy has had some allegations before, and we don't want to put any money behind him and associate our brand with Justin Tucker. And then, the 19th person comes out, and the 19th person has the receipts or has the photos.
Right.
So it's already definitely going to hurt him in any chance. But as I said, if it looks bad, it's bad for the NFL. Image is everything for the NFL. That's why they would go as so far as to hide a murder committed by Ray Lewis. Or how the Patriots did an offer to buy back all the Hernandez jerseys, right? Because if it looks bad, it's bad for the NFL. They didn't want people walking around still wearing Aaron Hernandez jerseys, so they bought them back so they could be destroyed. Their whole goal was to eliminate that bad look.
They sent him overseas.
I hope they sent him overseas. I hope there's a bunch of kids in Kenya who think that Aaron Hernandez is the greatest NFL player of all time. But anyway,
I didn't send this to you, but did you see the article where Harrison Butker got invited to the White House? Or went to the White House and got invited into the Oval Office. There's a picture of him and Trump. Trump really likes him, apparently, and obviously I think because of his speech and everything else. But there was a picture of Harrison Butker and then Trump sitting at the desk, and I can't remember Harrison Butker his Twitter handle. It's at Butt Kicker or something like that. It's kind of clever with his last name, but it said his handle and the GOAT 45 and 47. It was kind of funny because we spent a lot of time with Harrison Butker's story.
Yeah, there was a lot of hate on the side of the left against Harrison Butker for having the audaciousness to say that women can pursue anything that they want to do in life, but they also might find happiness in just raising a family. That was horrible to say. I mean, very, how dare he be pro-mom? Horrible.
You may know this, John. Jill brought this up. I just put it on the screen, but doesn't the NFL Hall of Fame not have any personal contact clause? Aren't there murderers in there? I mean,
well, first of all, you're suggesting there's a lot of NFL murderers, but I can only think of one, two. Well, no, because Hernandez isn't in the Hall of Fame. I don't know.
I mean, that's why I asked you that question.
I would say that there's maybe not necessarily a clause. I think maybe they just know that someone like O.J. Simpson, his bus doesn't deserve to be there because he almost beheaded Nicole Brown Simpson. Like, I think that those things are kind of tacitly in there, that you have to be a good sportsman, you have to have a good reputation, and I think that that's just to enter the conversation, because no one's going to open their mouth now and say, like, should we bring OJ back? He's dead and it's the situation settled, and should we actually talk about bringing OJ back into the Hall of Fame? I don't think anyone would do that. So I don't think, maybe there's not officially a clause, but I think it's just obvious that no conscientious or professional or serious person would consider someone with, I would say, convictions, legal convictions, that it's been determined by a court of law that they're an egregious person. That being said, like Lawrence Taylor, he's in the NFL Hall of Fame. I believe he had a statutory rape conviction. I think he's technically a sex offender.
I think he had some DV stuff too.
So I don't know.
Article with him, he said he didn't remember getting drafted by the Giants because he drank 41 Coors Lights.
I like that story. That's a nice Lawrence Taylor story. Also, he's also the one that crippled Joe Theismann or whatever. And I don't know. Yeah. Justin Tucker did release a lengthy statement here. The allegations made by the Baltimore Banner are unequivocally false. So here's the good news. I mentioned before that you can't go after the people who are making accusations. He can sue the Baltimore Banner. Throughout my career as a professional athlete, I have always sought to conduct myself with the utmost professionalism. I have never before been accused of misconduct of any kind, and I have never been accused of acting inappropriately in front of a massage therapist or during a massage therapy session or during other body work. I've never received any complaints from a massage therapist. I've never been dismissed from a massage therapy or bodywork session. I've never been told that I was not welcome in any spa or any other place of business. In accusing me of misconduct, the article takes innocuous or ambiguous interactions and skews them so far out of proportion that they're no longer recognizable, and it presents vague insinuations as fact. This is desperate tabloid fodder. It is no surprise that the paper's interactions with me were marked by journalistic failures at every turn. When I first learned that the newspaper was writing this article, they refused to reveal the claims they were planning to make against me. It wasn't until I was forced to hire the leading defamation law firm in the United States to write the paper that they finally revealed what they were planning on writing. Then, when they did finally provide some of this information, they gave me next to no time to provide a response. It is clear why. They had no time, they had no interest in what I or anyone else had to say. Once they reviewed the newspaper's allegations against me, it was apparent that the newspaper was deliberately misconstruing events as nefarious, which they were not, and were relying on third-party speculation to create the false, preconceived narrative about me that they believed would generate clicks. The newspaper had already written this false, salacious profile well before attempting to speak to me or any of the bodywork professionals I have worked closely with for the better part of the last decade. The newspaper made no effort to interview these key witnesses until prompted to do so by my defamation attorney, because they did not want to hear what they had to say about me. It kind of goes on from there, but I believe it. I mean, if they didn't want to talk to certain bodywork people or to him to find out what he has to say, any good newspaper, any journalistic outfit is going to want to hear both sides of it. They're going to say, "Here's what the claims made, and here was Justin Tucker's response." But they didn't even give him time to do that because they just wanted to run the allegations.
Yep.
They wanted to increase clicks and circulations for the Baltimore Banner. It's very obvious. On Tuesday, Ravens general manager Eric DeCosta addressed the allegations made against Tucker for the first time during his press conference during the Combine in Indianapolis. The allegations are serious and concerning. The amount of allegations is serious and concerning, he said. I think we're fortunate the league is doing an investigation. Yeah, the league will get to the bottom of it. The league definitely doesn't have any vested interest in that. And I say that completely dispassionate. Suppose Justin Tucker is guilty. The league might be having an interest in covering it up.
Right.
Well, wait as patiently as... Go ahead.
I said it goes both ways with the league. It definitely does.
I don't trust them to investigate anything.
No.
We'll wait as patiently as we can for as much information as we can, and we'll make our decisions based on that. You damn well better, because this guy has been kicking for you for a long time. And like he said, he's never been accused of any kind of misconduct. There's guys in the league that get accused of misconduct all the time, right? Tyreek Hill gets thrown on the street by Miami PD. That was an incident that happened. Justin Tucker's never had anything else. He's not exactly like Richie Incognito or some of these other players that have all these other issues, or Ndam Katsu, these guys that have problems, or Chad Ochocinco. He's not one of these guys who has
You watch
issues.
your mouth. You watch your mouth.
He played for a lot of teams.
I don't care. Watch your mouth.
Not just the Bengals. Okay, so let's say Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens, great cowboy.
Watch your mouth again.
But yes, okay, but Terrell Owens had his problems, didn't he?
He definitely did.
Not the least of which
So
was
did
playing for the
Chad.
Eagles.
Should
Anyway.
have been arrested for that.
Yeah. DeCosta says the team had already planned on exploring draft options at the kicker position even prior to the allegations made against Tucker were being made public. And he said the team was made aware of that just before the Baltimore Banner published its initial article. I made a comment on this some weeks ago when we first talked about this. Why isn't this the Baltimore Sun talking about this? The Baltimore Sun's the leading newspaper in Baltimore. Why are we talking about the Baltimore Banner? The fact that we're saying the word Baltimore Banner shows you that something's wrong. Because they're not something I've ever heard of before. I don't live in or around Baltimore, but I know the Baltimore Sun is the newspaper. I don't know if it's a good newspaper or not, but I know it's the leading publication there and has been for a long time. But we're talking about at least some second, third, fourth rate publication called the Baltimore Banner.
It'd be like here, like the Cincinnati Enquirer was the big,
yeah, but it shows you that their tactics are paying off because we're talking about the Baltimore Banner. That's all that they're trying to do. They don't care if they damage his career. They sit down in a meeting and they said, we might be able to generate clicks and circulation for our publication, and then be like, yeah, well, we need to because we're about to declare bankruptcy. So we need to get big and we need to get fast. What can we do? Well, we could go after one of our own sons. We could go after the greatest player for the NFL team based here in Baltimore. We could go after one of our own. And someone who's at the twilight of their career that if he disappears is not going to affect the long-term future of the Baltimore Ravens so that people don't hate us. We increase clicks, we increase circulation, we make the Baltimore Banner relevant again. And you know what? If it all fails and he sues us for defamation, we're going out of business anyway. We're going to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. He won't get any money out of us either because we'll just file for bankruptcy and we'll all just go work at some other publication.
We're performing cannibalism right now. Do it. Get out on the street.
Do you see how even they might be in a position where it's do or die? So roll the dice, see if you can win big. And if not, you were already going to bust anyway. So that's my feelings on that. We're running a little bit long here, so maybe we should just kind of move it along. Did you want to talk about Tom Brady's agent calls to Matthew Stafford as inaccurate? It's possible that he's been tampering with Matt Stafford.
I just brought up because I thought it was interesting, just in his new position that he's with, being a broadcaster and then a minority owner in the Raiders. Kind of weird where they're saying that he had Stafford out to his Montana house or his ranch or whatever it is. He denies it and says it was just an off chance that they saw each other. Optics are optics, but
it will always look the other way for Tom Brady.
But I would like to think that Tom Brady's a little bit smarter than that.
I don't think he is. I think he knows he can get away with whatever he wants. He's untouchable.
He's smarter than that because he knows he's under a microscope right now. He's not a player anymore. He's just a rich dude.
Yeah, but the fact that he's still allowed to be a broadcaster and a minority owner of the Raiders. I mean, I get that Fox doesn't handle a lot of Raiders games because they're an AFC team and CBS usually plays the AFC games. But it's still a conflict of interest, I think.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but obviously, they did cater the rules to him. It seemed like, you can't go in, the visiting team locker room, or you can't do this, you can't do that. I think it's being blown out of proportion a little bit, and until there's more on it, I saw it real quick, and I was like, oh, Tom Brady's back in the news. Weird, but we know Stafford's dealing with some shit, with his current team, so maybe it is something. I don't know. It's just something to put on the radar to keep an eye on.
Do you like the double standard I just applied, though? I said, you give Justin Tucker every benefit of a doubt. And then I said, Tom Brady gets away with everything. Tom Brady, someone said something bad about Tom Brady. I'm like, I believe it, and I think it's terrible.
He is a scourge of the earth.
Okay, so full fairness, we've got to give Tom Brady the benefit of a doubt. But you know what? If Matt Stafford ends up playing for the Raiders, maybe we should go back and have a look at it. I don't know.
Yeah, I just want to put on a radar.
Something that's on your radar, I guess I have to be fair. And then just something fun to mention, Plaxico Burress, that idiot. Guy that shot himself once while he was in a nightclub. He had a gun tucked into his sweatpants, of all things. To me, that was always the funniest part of the story. Is that first of all, he's going out to a nightclub wearing sweatpants. And then, because I guess he has the right to protect himself, even though I don't believe in really any gun laws. But New York has gun laws that he was not abiding by. And then the idiot shot himself. He's literally dependent on his legs to make a living, and he blew a hole himself. But now, life for Plaxico Burress continues to get worse. He sold his giant Super Bowl ring at auction for a little more than $250,000, nearly breaking a record. He was a member of the 2007 Giants team that dethroned the previously undefeated Patriots, and that was the helmet catch game and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl ring of former NFL wide receiver Plaxico Burress. New York Giants has been auctioned off. The ring was sold in Heritage Auctions. The ring was previously posted on an auction block earlier this month, and it was authenticated on November 16th by Burress in a letter. The ring is now the second most expensive Super Bowl ring to ever be sold on the open market. Former Baltimore Colts coach John McCafferty ring from Super Bowl V was auctioned off for a $300,000 price tag. I think he was probably dead, though. Burress had a huge role in the Super Bowl as he caught the game-winning touchdown pass in the final seconds to lift the Giants to victory. In doing so, the Giants dethroned the Patriots and handed the loss to Tom Brady and Randy Moss. Following his Super Bowl victory in New York, Burress dealt with multiple financial and legal hardships. The most notable occurred when he shot himself in the leg like a fucking moron with an unlicensed gun in November of 2008 in a Manhattan nightclub. Burress ended up serving 20 months in prison after pleading guilty to attempted assassination of an NFL player. That wasn't what he was convicted of. Burress spent 4 seasons with the Giants after being selected with the number 8 pick by the Steelers. He spent the final 2 seasons of his career with the Steelers once again before retiring. So just wanted to mention things aren't going well for Plaxico.
It's a shame when you see like great players. Like he was a very, very good player. I won't say great, but very, very good player. And then when they get to the point where they have to sell their shit because they didn't
manage their money well. They handed generational wealth, and they must spend it so badly or have advantage taken of them so badly that they have nothing to show for it at the end of their careers. It's kind of sad. But I also never liked Plaxico because he played for the Steelers and Giants. Fuck that guy. Right? I hate both those teams. And he shot himself, so whatever. Something I wanted to bring up, critical in sports news. J.D. Vance, first vice president in decades with facial hair. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. J.D. Vance, vice president, first facial hair nearly a century.
I never even put it together. I'm glad you brought that up. I like little factoids.
He was the first major vice president. He was the first vice president in almost a century to have facial hair. Former President Harry Truman sported a goatee in office in 1948. He just did that while he was on vacation. Charles Curtis, the vice president to Herbert Hoover from 1929 to 1933, had a mustache. There's Charles Curtis.
Huh. I'll be damned.
Well, that handsome old white.
Handsome old white.
Anyway, he's also the, of course, Vance is also the first millennial vice president, and he's bringing back facial hair. He's making facial hair great again.
Another factoid: his brother or half brother, I think it's his half brother, is just put his petition in to run for mayor of Cincinnati.
Ohio's kind of going to the dogs, if you don't mind my saying.
Well, I do mind you saying, but whatever.
Well, are you going to vote for Vivek?
Most likely, because the guy that's going to run against him, I'm not one of the guys that's going to run against him. I'm not a huge fan of. So
isn't there going to be a primary at some point?
There will be.
You should vote for the guy who's running against him.
You shut your mouth.
Why? What's so great about Vivek? He's just the Obama of conservatism.
You're not the boss of me, John. You are not the boss of me.
Okay, so he made up a drug, and when it went public, he sold it out from under himself, made all this money, and then the drugs tanked since then. And then he wants to bring in all these H-1B people into America, and he says America is an idea, not a people, and Americans don't work really hard. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's your guy, Vivek.
I'm not having this conversation with you.
Vivek Ramaswamy, if you ask me. The guy probably has a call center somewhere. He's getting rich off of.
Is that who's calling me about my fucking auto warranty?
Yeah, it's probably him, and he's probably is part of his campaign donations. Is old people sending Amazon gift cards to people so that warrants don't get issued for their arrest.
When I keep getting text messages that I owe a toll from somewhere. I have no idea where.
I'm coming out to say I'm against Vivek. He's too good to be true. Kind of came out of nowhere. He's the conservative Barack Obama. He probably wasn't even born in this country. Also on Vice President Schuyler Colfax, who's vice president with Ulysses S. Grant, had a full beard. Charles Fairbanks, who served under TR, Theodore Roosevelt, had a thick goatee. And Thomas Marshall, The VP for Wilson had a neat mustache, but now we've brought it back. And some people have said that it's not a good look. That some people thought that Trump didn't like him for having a beard. Trump says he looks like a young Abraham Lincoln.
Just minus the hole.
Minus the hole in his head. So, all right. So I'm against Vivek. I'm glad that Keith and I finally have something to fight about.
Yes.
When's the next episode of One More and I'm out of here?
Today, 5 p.m.
Did I send you a thing on that?
No.
Oh, you asked me for it and I haven't made it yet.
No.
You said that it needed to be Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman was revealed to have been assassinated by Epstein.
That was an idea.
All right. I'll work on that. Probably while we discuss what went wrong with today's episode. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening. We appreciate you guys. We'll catch you back here later today for another episode of One More and I'm out of here. Now, and I won't be here for that, so you can look forward to that. But Kiefer and Andrew Pepperoni will be here, and that other guy, Don.
Andrew Pepperoni and Don.
Sorry, I forgot. What's Don's name?
Damn.
Damn, I'm so close. That was this really stupid moment.
Just missed it by a vowel or two.
I'm glad that got captured on the internet. All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Sorry for everything. We'll catch you back here next time. Keith, I love you, man.
John, I love you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.